Good morning. And are you able to share the slides? So good morning. It is my pleasure to be here with you this morning to speak on emotional intelligence. You and I have all experienced sometime when emotions have impacted our thinking, but we might not realize that emotions is absolutely central to our thinking. So our brains require emotion in order for us to evaluate our decisions. So most people have actually heard about emotional intelligence around 1995 when Daniel Goleman presented his best-selling book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Matters More Than IQ. In that work, Goleman laid out a very powerful case for asserting that factors such as self-awareness, self-discipline, empathy, were very important, and that they actually informed the way we develop our thinking. So at this point, I just want to pause for a moment and use that first slide and to get some feedback from you about how are you feeling today? So if we were using a poll, then you could poll how you're feeling today, whether you're feeling sad, whether you're feeling happy, or just so-so, as it were. Okay, from there, I'd like to move on. So are we able to get any polls in? So the next slide is, how informed are you about emotional intelligence? Are you very informed? Sort of moderately informed, slightly informed, or only curious? This is a completely new topic to you. Whichever. Just make a note, because by the time I am finished, I would like to just find out from you again how you thought about emotional intelligence. Now, before we go on to the next slide, let me just give you some foundations without going into the science of emotional intelligence. Let me just share with you why it has become so important. So emotional intelligence was conceptualized by Peter Slovany and Jack Mayer in 1990. And they hypothesize that there may be abilities to do with emotions that are just as important as words and numbers and shapes, etc. And their early definition of emotional intelligence involves the ability to perceive, to understand, to utilize, and generate emotions. This means the ability to process information about the way you are feeling and about how other people are feeling. It is also the ability to use emotions to guide your thoughts. Therefore, emotional intelligent people pay attention to both how they are feeling and how they are and how others are feeling. So Daniel Goleman, as I said before, he was the person who actually popularized emotional intelligence. He summarized that emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions as well as to access and generate that emotion so that it supports your thoughts, and you can reflectively use your thoughts to regulate your emotions. So therefore, if I were explaining to a 5-year-old about emotional intelligence, I would say to a 5-year-old, emotional intelligence is about how you show up. And how you show up has an impact on other people. This is what Daniel Goleman was more or less saying when he says it is the ability to understand emotions and use that knowledge, that emotional knowledge, to regulate your own feelings and how you present yourself. And that also has an impact on intellectual growth. And Daniel Goleman suggests that there were 4 components on emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. So he put empathy and social skills together. Now, in the health and social care setting, this is very important for us. You know, awareness, we need to be aware of our environment. We need to be aware of our clients, our patients. We need to be aware of what is impacting upon them, and we need to show compassion, and in order to give our very best. We need to show compassion in order to give the very best support. So move on from 1990. In 2005, Reuven Barron took the work of Daniel Goleman and developed it even more. And he carried out further research on emotional intelligence, which he initially called social and emotional functioning. So in which case he was saying emotional intelligence is an array. So it's a lot of interrelated emotional and social competencies and capabilities. And these social and emotional competencies and capabilities influence the way you and I impact our environment and how we influence and bring other people on board. So with that work, and if you were to do a Google search, you would see thousands of articles now on emotional intelligence. So why does it really matter? It actually matters. And if I were to quote someone like another leadership expert, who is Steve Cochran, he said, over the last 1,000 years, the currency has been information. The primary currency has been information. So we have used information to impact wealth and influence. And that was how we master things. So if you could actually memorize information and be able to regurgitate that information, then you found that you actually had an advantage. But here we are in the 21st century. We are not dealing with 1,000 years ago. So in the 21st century, what has happened? The internet has actually changed all that. If we want information, we go to Google, we go to Siri, and we go to Wikipedia. So the primary currency now in wealth and influence is very much about the way we relate to others. So it's very much about the way we relate to others. So many leaders now have traded on the strategy of information and analysis, and we are now asking, how do we understand and connect with people more effectively? We now know from the plethora of research that an awareness of emotional intelligence show you how to connect, how to value, and it actually shows us the way we can build relationships with people. When you are able to relate to people in the way in which they are wired, then we have much bigger impact. So what I have personally known now is that I do not have to stop being strategic. I do not have to stop being visionary. Those are elements that I love, but I can add that with emotional intelligence, add that with my creativity to actually support leaders and import others to be the very best they can. And this is what we do with emotional intelligence. We use emotional intelligence to support others to be the very best they can. So I now want to take you to the slide that talks about emotional intelligence, the top 10 skills in the World Economic Forum. If I'm able to show that. Okay, so here we are in 2019. We were talking about creativity, persuasion, collaboration, adaptability, time management. Those were top 10 skills. Those were top skills, top 5. Now here we are in 2020. The World Economic Forum is saying complex problem solving. We only have to look at what we're dealing with at the moment in terms of COVID. And all that is happening with the world economics. Critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with people, and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has actually come up as number 6 right there. So we are going to find that 2021, you're going to find that when we begin to deconstruct and look at how we have managed the current issue around finances and COVID and all of those sorts of things, emotional intelligence has been very key to success. So I would like you to make a note of those top skills and begin to think about, how am I going to survive moving forward? What do I need to do? So let me move on to the next slide, emotional intelligence defined, and give you some perspectives there. I said to you in 2005, when Barhan has actually took on the work of Daniel Goleman, and Barhan has said emotional and social intelligence is a cross-section of interrelated emotional and social competencies. He talks about skills and factors that determine how effectively we understand and express ourselves, and how we understand others, and how we relate to them, and how we cope with daily demands. So as I said, simply put, emotional intelligence is the ability to use emotions effectively. Now, so that's one definition. Let's move on to the next definition, emotional, in terms of emotional intelligence. Goleman, what was he saying? He said emotional intelligence is that capacity for us to recognize our feelings, the feelings of ourselves and the feelings of others, and we use that to motivate ourselves and for managing emotions in ourselves as well as in our relationships. So when we begin to think about emotional intelligence, we said the emotional intelligent leader fully understands how their feelings impact upon the decisions that they are about to make. So sometimes you hear people say, you know, when you're going to an interview and you often get the question, and have you ever had an experience when you have had to remain calm under pressure? But people with higher emotional intelligence are able to manage their emotions in line with the environment. So let's move on to the next. I want to just bring your thoughts to emotional intelligence, what Mayor and Saville said. And they said emotional intelligence is that ability to perceive emotions, to access and generate emotions, so as to assist thought and understand emotions, so as to promote emotional and social and intellectual growth. So in other words, you can see from the 3 main protagonists that I have shared with you and who have done such a lot of research, they're all saying the same thing in one way or another. So just then look at performance and emotional intelligence and performance. So years of studies have shown clearly that the more emotional intelligence a person has, the better their performance. And this applies to leaders as well as managers, to employees at every level, and teams. Emotional intelligence has twice the power of IQ to predict performance. EQ, emotional intelligence, is a better predictor than employee skills, than knowledge or experience. So here we are. We are appointing two people. So I'm giving you a scenario here. We have one person with high intellectual intelligence, high IQ. And we have another person, and the person may have all the technical competencies. So high IQ, high competencies, technical competencies. You have another person who has even higher IQ without the technical competencies. The person with the higher IQ will always outperform even that person with whose IQ was fairly high anyway. So it's very important, because you and I know that it's about relationships. Now, I could let me pause for a moment, and I want you to write down on a piece of paper. Think about the best boss that you have ever had. How would you write 3 words that would describe the best boss that you have ever had? Just write down 3 words to describe the best boss that you have ever had. I'll give you a few seconds for that. Now, on another side of the paper, write down 3 words that discuss the worst boss that you have ever had. 3 words. Now, when we begin to think about it, did the best boss that you have ever had, did that best boss, how did you feel when you want to get up and go to work? Did you feel that you want to go in there and do your best? Just make a note of that. How did that person make you feel? Now think about the swap now, and think about the worst boss you have ever had. Did you really feel you wanted to get up for that person? Did you really want to go to work? So it just shows the impact that we can actually have on others. So I'm going to move on to the next slide around the business case. I want to make some space here for us to have some interaction by the questions that you're going to ask. So I'm moving through this fairly quickly. So the business case for emotional intelligence, and certainly will ensure that I get a very long bibliography out to you. I can summarize it in a few sentences. Recruitment and retention. So in terms of recruitment and retention, the biggest study that has been done has really been around the US Air Force, where they found that they were losing a lot of people. And once they began to use emotional intelligence to support their recruitment, they found that their retention improved, and they actually saved over $300 million. So the research from the Center for Creative Leadership has also stressed that the higher emotional intelligence create better leadership. So quite a lot is available. I want to move on to the next slide, because as I said, I want to open up for discussion. So the business case is that more and more companies have actually demonstrated that using EQ, emotional intelligence, in training and in organizational change initiatives can reduce costs associated with turnover, absenteeism, and low performance. So that's very important for us to know that. So think about your situation. Could you improve your emotional intelligence? And could you think about your organization in terms of emotional intelligence? Could you spend more time in developing staff, for staff to have an understanding of what emotional intelligence is about? Just make a note to yourself from what I have shared thus far. Okay, so I'll move on to my next slide, if I may. So differentiate yourself. It's important for you to develop your emotional intelligence because that actually helps you to differentiate yourself. So in the future, you and I will be able to differentiate ourselves based on our ability to inspire people. If you are going for a senior leadership interview at the moment, you will nearly always find that you get questions around how you influence people. You will nearly always, in one form or another, you will get questions about how you influence people. You'll get questions about how you build teams, how you collaborate. So all of those things are important. So what I am saying here, how you show up is critical to your success in anything related to people. Emotional is contagion, and it is a very powerful force. So have you ever been, make a note of this, have you ever been in a situation where somebody walk into the room and the energy that they are carrying is so palpable that you think, there is some positive energy here. You know, that a person walks in and they literally just light up the room. Make a note of that. And vice versa. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody walks into a room or somebody is in a meeting and the energy just drops? Yes. This is about emotion. It is about emotional contagion. As I said, it's a very powerful force. So I want to share with you that emotional intelligence is not cognitive intelligence. Cognitive intelligence refers to standardized means of measuring cognitive abilities and cognitive traits such as one's vocabulary, cognitive domains in memory, in reasoning, visual, motor, and symbolic thinking. There are some elements too of intellectual intelligence that looks broad in terms of how we use our visual motor skills to inform our environment. Emotional intelligence is also not about personality. When we talk about personality, we are literally talking about the totality of qualities and characteristics that are peculiar to a specific person. So some of you may have done MBTI when how you you know, are you a structured person? Are you a more flexible person or something? Things like that. So EQ and IQ. So emotional intelligence. So what we begin to think about here is, while IQ remain an important predictor of types of vocation in given areas, once the predictability around the vocation is done, then you will find that IQ has no big place anymore. It's emotional intelligence that actually kicks in. So if I move on to the next slide, please. Emotion, the way you and I show up has long-lasting effect, as I said before. People will forget what you said, but they won't forget what you did. So how you make people feel, they never forget. They will forget what you said, they will forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. So emotions can lead to some of the worst decisions that you have ever made, or some of the best decisions you have ever made. So the difference between worst and best decisions can sometimes be related to emotional intelligence. So begin to think quite clearly about where you stand in terms about your own emotional intelligence. When we begin to look at some of you are scientists on here. So when we begin to look at variance, we find that approximately 1% of variance account for occupational success that can be attributed to IQ. IQ peaks around 17 years of age, and EQ is not fixed, and it continues to rise steadily until about age 65. So I am originally from Jamaica, and so my elders used to say that age matters because you get older and wiser. And whatever culture we are coming from, I think we have some similarities to share there. So let me move on to the next slide. Emotional, and I've just talked about that, so we can move on. Next slide, please. Next slide. So emotional intelligence and leadership. Now, I am going to refer you to Rush Martin. There are many on the market, but Rush Martin, Martin Newman, and Judy Peirce developed what they call emotional capital. And Martin Newman then said that emotional capital is the new yardstick. So because emotional intelligence is so important, he differentiated himself from others, from Byron and from Goldman, by talking about emotional capital. And he said that it is a new yardstick for leadership. And what Martin Newman did, he took the most consistent the most consistent items, both from Barron's model and from Goldman's model, to develop his model. And he developed 10 competencies around emotional intelligence. I will zip through those very quickly because I want to show you others as well. So he's Martin Newman's, he is really focusing on leadership, and the key principles around leadership there. He says that leadership is a byproduct of emotions like self-confidence, optimism, independence, and enthusiasm. And on the worldwide study that has been done from all the people who have gone through using his tool, that we find the predictor that the people out of his 10 components, the people who are high in awareness, people who are high in relationship skills and optimism, that they tend to be very much more successful. And interestingly, worldwide, most of the studies show that in relation to relationship skills, that women, that there is a slight difference here between the genders, that women tend to have more relationship skills, stronger in relationship skills than our male counterparts. Let's move on to the next slide, please. And so all of the tools that are available, we will find that self-awareness is a baseline. Goldman's model has self-awareness. Martin Newman's model has self-awareness. Barron's model has self-awareness, and Jenner's, which I'm going to talk about later. So self-awareness is that ability to recognize the impact that you are having on yourself and others. Self-confidence, self-reliance, self-actualization, assertiveness are also important elements. Rather than going through all of these one by one, I am going to come back to them. So let's just go on to the next slide to show you the others. Relationship skills, empathy, self-control, flexibility, and optimism. I will come back to those. So let me move on to the next slide, please. And here I am actually going to do a deep dive into self-awareness. And the reason for going into a deep dive into self-awareness is recognizing that self-awareness is that baseline for emotional intelligence. It's the foundation. Self-awareness is about being aware about how you feel and the impact your feeling can have on both your decisions, your behavior, and your performance. People who are emotionally self-aware are very conscious of the impact of their feelings on themselves and others. When you are emotionally self-aware, you are very present. You are very present to your feelings and very present to what the feelings, the impact of those feelings on others. When you are disconnected from this, your influences drops. So we find that self-aware people, emotionally intelligent leaders who are aware of their emotional intelligence and know how they are feeling all the time are very self-aware people. They have the capacity to recognize their feelings and recognize their emotions and recognize how these impact both on personal opinions, attitudes, and judgments. So as I have on the slide there, imagine your self-awareness as an inner compass for guiding you for what is right. Let's move on to the next slide, if I may please. So as I said, I'm doing a deep dive here. So self-awareness has three components. It's about your emotional awareness, it's about your behavioral awareness, and it's about your nonverbal communication. Let's move on to the next slide. So why is self-awareness important? As I said before, it is the foundation on which most of the other elements of emotional intelligence are built. So if you think about the slide that I shared with you before, if you're not, and in terms of Rush Martin's 10 components, how do you develop, how do you know your self-confidence if you are not self-aware? How do you access your self-control if you are not self-aware? How do you access your flexibility if you are not self-aware? And how do you demonstrate your self-esteem if you're not self-aware? So self-awareness is very important. So let's move on to the next slide, please, because it's so important that you master your self-awareness. So mastering a self-awareness, mastering your overarching skills of self-awareness will empower you to weigh the way you are. And you know, I love to dance, so I can, if I stand up now, you won't actually see all of me, but you know, I say to people, when you're mastering your self-awareness, you are very much in your body and you know how to present yourself, and you are just so very, very comfortable in your skin. You know, mastering your self-awareness, you become aware of your actions, you become aware of your behaviors, and you will be more successful in your personal life. Let's move on to the next one, please. So there's a journey. There is a journey to self-awareness. It begins with a desire to understand yourself and know that impact that you have on others and other people. You need to be comfortable in yourself. And I say to you, when you are self-aware, and we are in a term here now where we talk about Black Lives Matter, and yes, every life matter. But I hear so much that comes to the forefront, you know, about race and culture and people who have felt oppressed. Gender comes into this here, but let's just stay with race for a moment. I say, develop your skills, understand yourself, know your skills, your competencies. And if you are in an organization that doesn't value your skills, why are you staying there and becoming oppressed? Move on. There is a skill shortage. And because there is a skill shortage, you will always excel. You will always move on. So don't stay in places where you have bad bosses or worse bosses. Go to where you will be loved. Go to where it's a journey. Go to where you can be your best. That is why a lot of time and money is sometimes wasted on sending people on courses, because you go on courses and you get these wonderful ideas and you come back and you don't have an environment and you don't have a culture where you can actually impact the environment and the culture. Or from a self-awareness point of view, it may not be your interest, you know, so you're going there to tick the box. Stop ticking the box and live life. Say yes to life and let life say yes to you. If the desire is not to present within the person, if the desire is not present, if it's not in you, if you don't, I say, do what you love and love what you do. And this is one of the things that I have in one of my books that I have written about joyful living, that, you know, let your heart speak. And so if I do find that when your heart isn't actually speaking, then it drains you. So let me share with you some of the pain of what happens when self-awareness is low and the joy when it is high. Next slide, please. So when self-awareness is low, you are not good at recognizing your own emotions. You have difficulty in putting your feelings into words, and you're surprised by your emotional reactions. So you think, God, I lost it there. So you reacted rather than responded. But when self-awareness is high, you're in touch with your emotions. You're able to link feelings to appropriate causes. You understand the impact of your behaviors on others. So people who have high self-awareness, so if I recap it, I'm saying that people who have high self-awareness demonstrate an awareness of how they feel. They demonstrate an awareness of the impact emotions can actually have on their thinking. So I share with you, for 10 years, I was chairman of a primary care trust, NHS commissioning organization. And I know that I before board meetings. So I look at my calendar very well, and I manage my energy, because I know that at time for board meetings, people are going to be criticizing, they are going to come in from different, the press will be there, everything is going to be pushing. So I make sure that I don't get too tired. So the day before board, I will rest. That is me managing myself. Okay, it may be because I was a little bit older, because I'm speaking to you here now and you would not believe it. I'm a beautiful going on to 72 years young. So you know yourself, self-awareness, manage yourself, manage your energy, manage your psychology. So demonstrate an awareness of the impact you can have on others and how others can impact you. Ask other people for feedback. Find out what's working, what's not working, what can you do differently. Get feedback. Respond effectively to feedback from others. You know something? I say to you, going back to my state as a chairman, before my papers go out, I would always go to the people who I know who are going to give me the most destructive criticism. You think I want to shut them up? No, I want to hear them, because they are thinking from sometimes in a different way to me. They are thinking sometimes from a place where I may have one blind spot. So I'd say, get to know the people who are some of your worst critics. Go and have coffee with them. Go and get to understand how they are thinking, because sometimes you can actually take nuggets. Don't close down the people who you think differently to you, or who you think criticize you. Move with them and find the nuggets from that. So this is about demonstrating awareness of moods, and also self-aware people, they are consistent. They are very consistent in their behaviors. They behave in a way that is consistent with the way they describe themselves. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So without self-awareness, you will fail to notice when you are feeling stress, when you, and if you fail to notice when you are feeling stress, you will weaken whatever capacity you have for empathy. You know, for those of you who are linked with me on LinkedIn, I have a group that I manage, and I call it Leadership for Aspiring Directors. And in that group, I recently put in an article about having self-compassion. Because when you have compassion for yourself, you will be a much better leader. You can't have compassion for others unless you have compassion for yourself. You can't have empathy for others unless you have empathy for yourself. You will compromise in your ability to demonstrate your sensitivity with communicating with others if you do not have self-awareness. And it says self-awareness because it's starting with self. You know, it's like in terms of leadership development, it's from the inside out. It's not from the outside in. It is from the inside out. So I can talk about some coaching strategies, but I recognize how time is going, so I'm going to let those things come up into the chat. So let's move on to the next slide, please. Workplace climate. I think one of the most important applications of emotional intelligence is helping leaders to foster a workplace climate that is conducive of high performance. Very, very important. These, when you have a workplace that is conducive to high performance, these workplaces yield significant higher productivity. If you are happy at work, you will absolutely do much better work. If you are comfortable at work, you will do much better work. And these workplaces have better retention, they have better profitability, and emotional intelligence is just such a very competitive edge. So let's move on to the next slide, please. So in terms of thinking through emotional intelligence and workplace, the model here that I use is the Janus model, because, and the reason why I use it is because it is digital. So you go in, you complete your emotional intelligence questionnaire, and we have it where others teams can give you feedback. So you have the 180 degree and you have the 360 degrees. From the 360, whether you're doing the 180 or the 360 degrees, you can actually go in and you will see how you compare, you will see how others compare you, and you will see the difference. And this is all done digitally. And then your coach, whether it's any coach, myself, anybody, your coach then can go in and look at your action plan. And then when you come to a coaching and a coaching meeting, you have a much better coaching experience, because the action plan is already there and you are working within the here and now in a very informed and intellectually developed way. So in this model, you have self-awareness, as I said, that is common across all, awareness of others, authenticity, emotional reasoning, self-management. And I'm just going to say a few lines about the others. I won't go back to self-awareness because I've covered self-awareness. So when we're thinking about awareness of others, it's about perceiving. That makes sense, doesn't it? It's about perceiving, it's about understanding, it's about acknowledging and paying attention to how other people are feeling. Read the room in other ways. Read the look on the face. Is somebody looking lost? Awesome? Whatever. Read. Understand nonverbal communication. Self-awareness is a skill that really helps you to identify the things that make the people feel valuable, listened to. I know when I'm being listened to. You know when you're being listened to. You know when you're being cared for. You know when you're being pushed aside, as it were. You know when you're consulted, and you know when you're understood. It also helps you to demonstrate empathy. Awareness of others supports you and helps you to demonstrate empathy. It supports you to anticipate responses or reactions, and it also helps you to adjust your behavior so that you can collaborate and coordinate well with others. When you are actually demonstrating the awareness for others effectively, you come across as being empathetic. People who do not demonstrate this skill can come across as being insensitive to the way others feel. So people who are high in awareness of others, what do they do well? Well, they acknowledge other people's feelings, you know. Going back to your best boss. If you think back to that example, I said write down 3 words. Oftentimes, if I were using a poll where I saw all of your responses, you would often find that your best boss showed an awareness of others, and they often acknowledge the way you feel. You see that in the recognition of the body language, people who are high in self-awareness of others, the awareness of others, notice when somebody else needs support. And this is so important in the whole medical and social care. We need to be able to assess when someone needs support, more care, more support than at other times. We really do need to read the rooms, as it were. You're able to relate well to feelings of others as well. And you're accurately able to view the situation from different perspectives. You adjust behavior to match, not being a hypocrite here, but say, okay, I need to give John feedback today, but he's just come in and he shared with me that he has just had a death in his family. This is not the day to give him the type of feedback I'm going to give him. Yes, he's going to get the feedback, but choose your time. Okay, adjust. So that is about adjusting your behavior so that you're getting the best from others. It's about accurately anticipating responses and reactions from others. So authenticity. Now, I love this, and that's one of my books that I have written, and I've talked about the authentic self, the authentic choice. Be you. I think it was be your best self, be you, because everybody else is taken. There's no two people have the same fingerprints. No two people have the same voice. You are just so uniquely different. So just be you. That's about being authentic. Authenticity is also about openly and effectively expressing yourself, honoring yourself, honoring your commitments and encouraging authenticity in others. It involves honestly expressing specific feelings at work, such as frustration or happiness, providing feedback to colleagues. I was coaching a very senior leader recently who was getting some feedback, and I think it's because he's a Black man and he's the most senior Black man in this part of a very high prestige organization. And he was giving me some of the comments that somebody else, another director, has made. So I said, how did you feel about that? And he shared his feelings. And I said to him, so what is it that's stopping you from being authentic? By saying to this man, what actually makes you think you can speak to me that way? And I tell you something, he was curled up in laughter. He went back into work and he tried it. He asked this other director, what makes you think you have the right or the privilege to speak to me in that way? I tell you, it adds, so authentically, I can actually tell you to get lost nicely without me swearing at you. And it's about, and when you go back to Shakespeare and Shakespeare's work and draw on Taliban, and Taliban said, Master, you taught me your language. You and I, we actually need to be able to express ourselves cogently and politely without swearing, necessarily swearing, without being rude, being authentic. When you say this to me, it makes me feel. I would like you to communicate with me differently. So I am not blaming you. I'm saying when you express it this way, it makes me feel. I am taking responsibility for my feelings. I am sharing my feelings with you. And I am saying to you, if you want the best out of me, you're not going to get the best out of me if I am feeling like, say no more. So people high in authenticity are often described as being genuine, whereas people low in this scale in authenticity are described as being trustworthy and sometimes being very shifty. I need to quicken up now. So high in authenticity, share how you feel with others, describe your own feelings, and in a way that is sensitive to the feelings of others. Express your feelings in the right place at the right time. Facilitate changing and challenging conversations effectively, and be consistent in what you do and say. Encourage others to express themselves, honor commitments, and keep promises. So I'm going to give you 3 takeaways, and then I can come back to some of the things I haven't covered because I know time is running away from me so fast. So 3 takeaways, and you'll want to write these down. So it is not IQ that leads to success. Let me say that again. It is not IQ that leads to success. EQ, emotional intelligence, is more important because it's about your social skills and it's about how you relate. That actually gets things done. That is what makes the difference. My second takeaway. Higher EQ, so higher emotional intelligent leaders are more likely to make better decisions. They are more likely to engage and influence more effectively and create the right mood for the job. Did you get it? Let me say it again. I don't know if I can say it the same way, but let me say it again. EQ, so higher EQ leaders are more likely to make better decisions, engage and influence more effectively, and create the right mood for the job. And finally, I said I'd give you 3 takeaways. EQ leaders, so emotionally intelligent leaders, helps they meet and they understand their employees. They meet and they understand their teams. They understand human needs. And when you understand human needs, this has a profound impact both on productivity and in. So bring up the questions because I could talk forever on emotional intelligence.
Yes, Elbasa, thank you so much, Dr. Neslyn. It's so amazing and very nice way you presented it. I just have because yesterday we learned about personality. Yes. So, you know, that each one, you know, has have our own personality. So how can you integrate this emotional intelligence with our, you know, unique personality?
Okay, so when you're beginning to think about your personality, you're thinking about whether if I were okay, let me take Myers-Briggs then as a baseline. There are other personalities as well, but Myers-Briggs has a lot of that because Myers-Briggs is also about the way you communicate, and emotional intelligence is also the impact that you have. So would you believe it? You probably would not believe it. If I were to say to you that I'm an introverted person, you wouldn't believe it, would you? From the way I have just presented.
Yes,
no,
yes.
But my preference is for introversion. But I am emotionally intelligent to know that if I am presenting, then I actually need to have some energy. I need to have some energy. So, you know, I will demonstrate my energy. But my preference is for introversion. So I am sufficiently developed to know when to manage my introversion and when to manage my extroversion, because we have both. There is no one person in terms of the personality is always about the preferences. We have both of any of the traits. Does that make sense? So
Yes,
structured
yes.
flexibility. So I am a more structured person, but I also recognize when to be flexible. So therefore, as your line manager, if I'm line managing you, because I am such a structured person and have a sticker for deadlines, I am never going to be 100% honest with you around my true deadline. I'm actually going to allow myself the flexibility of 5. So if I need work from you, say for today, Friday, I am going to tell you that I need it for Monday. Why? Because I know that there are some people who will actually leave things till the last minute. And I actually need it in time to think, reflect, etc. So I manage it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That's how you
Yes,
can
yes,
put.
yeah.
So it's about awareness of others. So this is how you're bringing in personality again here: awareness of others and awareness of self. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was talking about self-awareness, and I said how important that is, and it's the foundations. So how do you then ensure that, a sort of coaching strategy? I'd say, peace of mind. Have peace of mind. Make peace of mind your highest priority every day, because when you have peace of mind, it tips over into another field. It tips over into your spirituality. It tips over into your spirituality in the sense that you become more harmonious. And when you become more harmonious, it opens up the field for joyfulness. So I could go into it much more deeper than that. Anything that actually disturbs you, make a note. And that is why one of the reasons why you should also keep your journals. I suggest keeping journals. Anything that disturbs me, I make a note of it. I may not be able to deal with it in the here and now, but I am going to make sure that in terms of my meditations, that I take it into my meditations, and I think, not just think, I open up. And I think I am going off script here now, but this is about me. This is about the authentic me, that I am just not the presented self, as it were. There is an inner self, and that inner self is grounded deeply in values, beliefs, and spirituality. So I'd say make peace of mind your highest priority each day. And I would quote Pascal, and if I remember his quotation right, he says, all humanity's problem stems from a person's inability to sit quietly and be in a room alone. You need to be able to sit quietly with yourself and appreciate what is coming up for you, and the ability to deal with those. And that is why mindfulness is such an important mindfulness, meditations, whichever way you want to think about it. But be mindful. Spend 5 and 10 minutes every day training your mind. And to begin with, you won't be able to cut out all the chatter, but it makes you become very aware of all the chatter that is within you. So give yourself space. Still open to questions.
Yes, Dr. Neslyn, here is a question from one of the participants. How can we deal with the manager that judge on the employee from the speech of another employee?
Say it again. How can we deal with the manager who
that judge on the employee from the speech of another employee?
God, judges. I think you can. I think you challenge. You. First of all, you need to be respectful of your manager. So that's very important. So, but you would say to your manager, help me to understand on what assumptions. What are the assumptions? Where did you get this information? And then if it is incorrect, you correct it. But you need to do it with humility. And humility doesn't mean deference. Humility is I respect your position as my manager. And I want to ensure that you have the most accurate information. So on what assumptions are you basing this? Where did you get this information? Who told you that? Or, or where did you get the information? Opens up, did you read it? Did somebody tell you? Whatever. Am I answering your question? If not, you can send me an email and I can take this offline and have a deeper understanding. Because
sorry, Sylvester, I think I know about her question. Probably what she wants to say that, for example, the manager listens only to one employee and not you, for example. So maybe the manager is only one-sided. She believes she only tries to listen to one employee, what the employee talk about. Like, for example, employee A and employee B. Probably what I understood this question, probably what she means that the manager only listened to what employee A said about B, but even the B wants to ask, say what is wrong with her side, but it's just one-sided. You mean to say that only that employee is more influential to the managers. That's why the manager only listened to employee A without listening the version of employee B. So that's the way I understood the question. There are some manager like that, right? They are only listening to one person, and what the person A said is always correct, and what the person B is not correct. So, they will not listen to both sides.
Thank you. It's so wonderful, isn't it?
That's the way I understood.
And it's true. Yeah, it is true. It is true. And hear this. I say we challenge that manager. And so we say, so I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that with everybody else. I would have a one-to-one with the manager. And I would say to the manager, it is my perception, so I'm going to use it this way. So it is my perception that it would appear that you value what Martha says much more than myself. When we are in meetings, if I were to take you back to an example, say yesterday morning we were in a meeting and you gave Martha space to present her thinking, and when it came to me, I tried several times to put my thinking, but you moved on very quickly. And this is not just yesterday morning. I notice it happens more and more. When I feel like that, I am not able to give my best self, because what is actually saying to me is that my contribution isn't valuable. So is that true, that my contribution isn't valuable? So you're challenging, you're having a difficult conversation with your manager, and you have to be able to do that. And I say, it takes courage to do that too. So, and this is where you have coaching, you play it back, So, sometimes, I'm working with someone and I say, okay, what is the situation? And they say, okay, so here you are, explain the situation to me. And they explain the situation. And I say, okay, and so what I want you to now, I want you to present that you are the manager. Come over here, sit into this chair, and let the manager respond to you. So you would respond as the manager would respond. So I said, all right, change chair and come back over here and respond to the manager again. So, you're role playing it, but it's deeper than role playing, because you are getting in touch with the real situation and you're getting some support to deal with it. This is not something you just do on your own. Support helps us to think, decide, and act. Have I made sense?
I don't know if it answers to that person, Basma Al-Arabi. Does it answer your question? I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how can emotional intelligence impact on us? Yes, first of all, self-awareness, our own vulnerability, how we feel. So be clear about how you're feeling and how you need to take care of yourself. And then in terms of our clients, our patients, awareness of others, you know, so we have social distancing and all of that. But again, on the inside, recognize that what we fear, and this is the spirituality side of it, what we fear, we attract to us. So energy goes where attention is. Whatever you give your attention to, you're opening up yourself to it. So from the spirituality side, I'd say that we do our daily protocols, and you protect yourself physically. You make sure that you're taking the right precautions when you wear your mask, when you need to wear your mask, wash your hands when you need to wash your hands, and all of those things. But also our spirit to protect you, because we are not just human beings. We are spiritual beings here having a human experience. So here's, I don't know, but if you want to follow that up, here's another one. How can individual who see the top administrator leads with bias, unethical, hidden issues, which cause him moral problems? Again, you get coaching and you address it. You address those issues, because where is the evidence? So as an administrator who you see it, and it's similar to the question that there was before, you know, people not listening to you. So if it's somebody who is leading with bias, where is the evidence that there is bias? And you and I, we know the values, the values of the organization. And so where is the values, unethical hidden issues? They show up in our behavior. So we challenge, we address, and you know, sometimes we move on. Sometimes that is not the environment for us. Not always easy, but you know, assess your options. Well, it certainly has been a joy and a pleasure to work with you, and I would like to hear from you, and I'd like to make the offer to work with you around your own emotional intelligence, in terms of that very last slide around workplace. So looking at emotional intelligence from the 5 areas: your self-awareness, your awareness of others, your authenticity, and your productivity, and your control. So, you know, email me or make contact through your conference organizers, and I am very happy to work with you one-on-one and help you to build your emotional intelligence.
Hi, doctor.
Hello, sir. I can see your smiling face here a long time.
Yeah. I had a question, doctor.
Mhm.
Regarding everyone get panic in some situations, right?
Mhm.
So in that situation, we can't control our emotions and feelings and angriness.
Yes.
So in that case, we may do lot of mistakes and some
Yes.
things. So in that case, how can we control our feelings and emotions?
Okay. So think of a time. You don't need to explain it to anybody else. So think of a time when you felt very panicky about something. Tell me when you can think of that time. Yes. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. So okay. So what I'd like, so how you will notice just by thinking about that, you will notice that your heart is racing, and it brings back, it snaps back the experience. It brings right back into the amygdala, the emotional brain, which I didn't talk about, but I can go a lot more in another time about the science around that. So the fear comes up. So okay, so close your eyes and breathe in now, and I want you to be with me. So breathe into the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. We're going to do 5 rounds, so that's 1 round. Breathe in to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4. Third round. Breathe in to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Fourth round. Breathe in to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Last round. Breathe in to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe out to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath to the count of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Deep breath in now and breathe normally. Check in with yourself. How do you now feel? Remember, I ask you to register your feeling at the beginning of when you remembered that situation.
Yeah, it's
you
awesome. It's awesome. Awesome.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. You see, there is so much that we don't understand about the breath because we don't explore that. Breath is about life. Breath has healing properties. Breath brings in oxygen. So for scientific reasons, okay, breath bring in oxygen that moderates that part of the cognition, the thinking brain. It settles it down and it allows space. On a spiritual level, you are breathing in the God within you. Whichever, and when I say breathing in God, even if you don't believe in God, you're breathing in life. Life is God. God is life. You're breathing that in, and that heals. So I'm multidimensional, if that makes sense. But and that is what I was saying, peace of mind. Make peace of mind your priority.
Okay, nice,
and there are many other examples, and that's in a whole coaching example. I say to people, keep a journal. So here I don't know if my Jim Rohn leadership journal. I make sure everybody gets one. And I said, make notes, make your notes, have your notes. Don't depend on your brain, especially when you get to my age. You forget things. Write things down so you can come back to it. This disturbed me. I need to find time to deal with it. Make space, make space, make space, make space to hear yourself think. Make space. And I in my coaching and on my website at Neslyn Watson-Druée.com, I said I support leaders
to discipline themselves to make space, to hear themselves think. It's not that I am so brilliant. It's because they are brilliant. They are brilliant. And because you are brilliant, you need to give some time to hear your brilliance on the inner level. Let me shut up for a while.
Thank you, dear doctor. Thank you.
Neslyn will do. And I unconditionally love and support your work in all your power and radiant magnificence. So have a wonderful time. God bless you.
You too. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.
I am indeed. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.